When it comes to finding good deals off market, you can go literally on and on and on about all the different strategies to use. Like there's literally cold calling, there's door knocking, there's mailing. Like there's a lot of different strategies that you can use to find deals, but in reality, none of it actually matters unless you understand like a few key factors. Now, first of all, if you're new to the channel, my name's Justin, you're wrong, and I've helped hundreds of people make money in real estate. But the first factor that's really the most important, if it's really to getting deals, is your data. Now, a lot of people seriously overlook this. Now, here's what I mean by that. For example, if you're going to be cold calling people, meaning, if you don't know what cold calling is, it's just calling strangers out of the blue, these homeowners. Well, they don't have to be homeowners, but calling people out of the blue to see if you want to essentially get them to use your service. And your service as a real estate investor or wholesaler is to get them to sell your house. So your service is buying their house. So if you're cold calling people and you're pulling your data in terms of like their phone numbers, these homeowners' phone numbers, from a bad source, no matter how many cold calls you make, you likely will struggle really hard to get a deal because the data's so bad. Like if you're pulling all the numbers, these people's phone numbers, and you're using a source where you're calling these people, and all of them, like 99% of these numbers, are numbers where you're like, oh, wrong number. You know that tone that you get when you call a bad number, and you're like, what is it? What is it again? It's like a like, sorry, you've reached the wrong number. Like this person is not available or this number is disconnected. That's what it says. If all the numbers are like that, like you're not going to get a deal. So you really have to focus on your data. And this applies to every aspect of the marketing. So I don't care what you choose, whether it's the cold calling or texting where you're trying to pull phone numbers for people, or you're doing mail, like you're mailing people and you're pulling, I don't know how you do this, but if you pulled bad mailing addresses where you're literally trying to mail marketing pieces to the wrong person, like that would be horrible, right? So your data matters because I don't care how good your sales skills are or how much volume do you do. Like if your data sucks, you're not going to do good. And there's a term that actually comes to mind when I think of this. I learned this back in college. It was called GIGO, or it's an acronym. It's GIGO. So it stands for garbage in, garbage out. And what it essentially means is if you have garbage data, you will get garbage results. And super true. Like I've noticed, I remember the times where I was pulling, okay, I'm not trying to bag on any sites, but I used to use True People Search. This is essentially a skip tracing service. And if you don't know what skip tracing service is, it's a way to find people's phone numbers based on their either name or their address or some other aspect of that person. But essentially you can find people's phone numbers, and a lot of them are kind of bad, like the bad phone numbers, they're wrong phone numbers. But for a long time I used that. One, it's time consuming because you have to input a person's name, like an individual line item for every single person you're trying to contact. So that was time consuming, first of all. But when you actually had the data, a lot of the numbers were bad. And for a long time, I used that and I was like, man, my data is just like, one, it was not efficient, and I was not getting a lot of connections on the phone. Like I wasn't getting a lot of people answering the phone. One, because my data sucked. So I was using a free service, although it is decent. But then I transitioned to use PropStream, where I can actually like bulk skip trace, so I can pull a list of people, list of homeowners, and I could just literally put them into PropStream. I'm like, hey, give me their phone numbers, and they push out a bunch of phone numbers, and a lot of them are good actually, like where you're actually connecting to the right person. So that was a game changer, and it was a game changer for me in my business because the data started to improve. Like no other differences. I was still doing the cold calling at the time. I was still doing this closings, but the difference was I had better data. So if you don't have good data right now and like you're noticing whatever your strategy you're using that you're not getting enough connects, like really think about, is it the data or is it me? Like, is it my sales skill? So that's the first most important part to finding the off-market deals. It's like really, it's kind of a secret because everyone overlooks it. Now, the second piece, and this might be kind of obvious, it's your volume. So whatever strategy you're using, whether it's cold calling, whether it's texting, whether it's direct mail, door knocking, whatever it is, you have to be doing like a lot of volume. Like if you're only going to be doing one phone call a week, like one cold call a week to these homeowners, it will take you most likely a long, long time to get a deal unless your list of homeowners was like extremely niche, like you knew these people are going to sell right away. Unless that was the case, it'll probably take you a long time to get a deal. And the reason is you're just not doing enough. Like, this is the most common thing I see actually with new investors. A lot of them come to me and they're like, hey, like, I'm really struggling to get a deal. It's been a few months. And usually the first thing I ask them is like, well, what do your KPIs look like? KPI stands for key performance indicators. So I'm essentially asking them, like, what's their activity look like? How many offers a day are you making? That's an activity to track. How many calls are you making a day? That's an activity to track, like one of the key activities. And so if first I might ask them, hey, what's your strategy? What are you doing right now to try to find deals? And they say cold calling. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, how many calls a day or dials a day are you making? And they're like, oh, like I'm calling like 10 people a day. I'm like, you're not doing enough. Like, think about it this way. To get consistent deal flow, and it wasn't even super consistent, mind you that. But in my market, when I did have the cold calling operation rolling for about a year, we dialed each probably like 3,600 people a day, like dials. 3,600 people every single day for 6 days a week. Well, not every day, but 6 days a week, 3,600 people. And we still, like that's what it took to get these kind of consistent deals. Now, if you're not doing that, you realize, oh crap, like I'm not doing enough. And it's true. Like if you want the results fast, you have to put in the work. There is no way around it. And that's actually kind of the cool thing about real estate is that you just got to put the work in. Like if you do this amount of activity, you get this amount of results most likely. Unless other things are bad, like maybe your data or other things. But it's volume, volume, volume. If you're ever struggling to find a deal or whatever it is in your business, just think about like, what's the key activity that'll push you forward to that goal? And whatever that activity is, ask yourself, are you doing enough of it? And like, if you don't know if you're doing enough of it, find an expert in your field, someone who's kind of doing what you're doing or is better at what you're doing, and ask them, hey, what is your activity on this? Like, for example, if I'm new at cold calling, and I don't know what a lot of volume is or like how much I should be doing or could be doing to get a certain amount of deals, I would just go to someone who's been doing it a while and been succeeding at it. And like, hey, like how many dials a day are you making? Like, what does your connection rate look like as far as people answering? Like, what do your conversations look like? Like, do you, like on average, how much time are you spending on the phone? Like, so that you have certain metrics to compare. Does that make sense? Like, you want to, like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is what a lot of people do is they try to do something so different when it comes to this real estate investing thing. But in reality, if you do the same exact thing as these other people, you'll get similar results. So that's my 2 cents on that. It's volume, 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 good data. Now, the last factor, if you want to land these off-market deals, believe it or not, it's sales ability. Now, while this is super important, it's not as important as volume, I'd say. And here's why. When I say sales ability, I'm talking about like, how good are you on the phone in terms of like, how well can you sell? And it's not like selling like you're just throwing pitches out. Selling in terms of like, how good are you at listening? Because that's really what selling is. If you want to sell anything, you just have to listen really well to the customer or the client or whoever you're trying to serve. And you're just trying to provide you're just trying to provide solutions for their needs. Like that's kind of all you're doing. That's what sales is. And if you suck at it, like if you answer the phone and you're like, hey, Mr. Seller, and you know, they're giving you a hard time, you're like, yeah, well, I don't know if we can, like if you're not confident on the phone, you're not going to get a deal. You might get a deal. Just because a seller might be so desperate and they need to get the home sold. So you might get a deal, but over time, you'll struggle if you never kind of focus or try to learn sales. The bright side of that is if you do enough volume, which is what we last talked about, you're going to get better at it. Like if you're calling the 1,000 or 2,000 people every single day and you're constantly having conversations and then you're constantly kind of thinking about, what went wrong in that last conversation or what went right? What can I keep doing? You're going to get so much better at sales and like it's going to work itself out. Like there's no course out there that will teach you better than the experience itself. Like, there are good sales trainings out there, and I've taken some sales trainings, but the best experiences come from actually talking to the clients, the people, the sellers, because then you get to kind of see what works firsthand. You're like, you might say something and they hang up, and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Like, you learn really, really fast. But yeah, focus on your sales ability. And if you're brand new, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would worry more so about the volume, because that's how you focus on sales ability truly. As long as, I just want you to be aware of your conversation. So don't just have conversations like blindly and then just move to the next one without kind of thinking about how could I have been better. Like, if you constantly do that and you're constantly trying to be better every single video, you'll be just fine. Like, your sales ability will improve so much. And, a few years ago, like, I was actually always kind of decent at sales. It's because I was better at listening. But now, just hearing different conversations and kind of going through them myself, like, I've gotten a lot better at it. And I know you will too, if you stick to the volume of like doing enough activity. And not just that, but like I said before, like having the good enough data to actually connect to these people. So those are my biggest tips on off-market deals and how to find them. If you focus on those three things, like no matter what strategy you actually use, you will be just fine. You will find some deals, you'll make some money, and I'm really excited for you. But also, if you just want help to grow your real estate investing business in general, I want you to go to the link in the description for a free strategy session. Peace.